Hey, this is Dave from REVOCATION, and you're watching United Rock Nations.
Hello guys of United Rock Nation. Today we are with Dave Davison from REVOCATION at the third day of Hellfest. So thank you for your time, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. We just finished playing. It was an awesome crowd. Stoked to be here.
Yes, very happy to be with you. Just after the show, I know it's very difficult. So what you're feeling about this show?
It was amazing. It was our first time playing Hellfest. We love French crowds. We played here at Petit Bain on our headliner back in the fall. It was a sold-out show. I just love the scene in general in France, and they've always been really good to us. So being able to play such a huge festival, such a well-known festival, was a real honor for us.
Okay. And what do you think about the French people for your music?
They're great. I mean, they're very open-minded. I think there's a lot of great forward-thinking music that comes out of France and has been for a long time. Back to classical music, I mean, art, to food, just in general. I think France is always sort of ahead of the curve in the art scene. So us being a band that try to push the envelope a lot in terms of our sound, everything from the extremity to the progressive nature of the sound that we have. France really seems to have embraced it. So it's always a pleasure playing here.
Okay. Yes, because technical death metal is a difficult music because of the inspiration in this way, and sometimes it's difficult. It's more difficult in Europe with this kind of music instead of maybe United States of America. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it depends from scene to scene, and I think nothing in today's day and age, the music scene, just everything evolves so quickly with technology. So maybe there might be a lull for a little bit, but now with just how fast information is carried, I feel like, you can have this emerging technical death metal scene, black metal scene, thrash metal scene, doom metal scene. It can all kind of evolve at the same time, and it can evolve pretty rapidly. So maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago it was maybe a little bit different, but I don't know. I see a real resurgence in death metal's popularity. I mean, we toured with Cannibal Corpse over here. They're very technical. Crowds are always packed. I mean, obviously they're a huge name, but I don't know. I just feel like there's a market for it for sure.
Okay. So REVOCATION, it's a 7th album in 10 years, and so I want to know what is your inspiration to do of this stuff.
I mean, I'm constantly inspired by just the genre of death metal in general, whether it's sort of nostalgic bands I grew up with, or finding out new bands and being inspired from them. I also don't just listen to metal. I listen to classical. I listen to a lot of jazz, and I focus a lot of time on certainly with jazz, studying that genre, transcribing, things like that. So I find that I'm always getting an influx of different ideas. So that's been a real motivating factor, I think, in the writing process for me, is just trying to consume as much music as possible, and then not trying to force the writing process either. So if nothing's coming out, if I'm not feeling inspired, I don't try to write. I try to put that on the back burner and maybe learn someone else's music and see if that can't kickstart some creativity.
What is the process of the songwriting? Only you or together?
Well, we're a collective unit, right? So but as far as how the bulk of the songwriting is broken up, I usually write about 8 songs, and Dan writes 2 per record. Although on the outer ones were 9 songs, so Dan wrote 2, I wrote 7. So I do the majority of the writing. But as soon as songs are coming together, I bring in Ash. Oh, there's my beer. Thank you. Merci.
You can drink.
Yes, I need this really bad. I'll bring in. It's hot. It's still. You don't know at home. It's hot as hell here. Hellfest deserves the name. Yeah. Anyway, So Ash and I will work on the material. I'll kind of have an idea of how I want things to sound. But he'll come up with his own ideas. Obviously, it's the same thing with Dan. He has his songs that he writes, and then he works with Ash. We bring Brett into the fold. Once the sort of skeletons of the songs start coming together. But I'd like to think that it's, even though I'm sort of writing a lot of the material myself, in my own, place, right? In my own mental headspace. We like to collaborate on different ideas, and I like to, hear them out as far as maybe because they might come up with something different, even if it's an arranging thing, what if this riff came back here or this or that. It's always good, I think, to have a democratic
Okay.
approach to the songwriting. But I mean, as far as the riffs and stuff like that goes, and the lyrics, I'm writing
Okay.
all that stuff.
So for the last album, called the outer ones, released 6 months ago, I read and on internet you picked up your inspiration on the short story, the dreams in the witch house and the color out of space. Could you tell me more about that?
Sure. I mean, they're both great Lovecraft stories.
Okay.
I mean, in general, I was sort of inspired by Lovecraft's writings on this new record. I mean, the Outer Ones is pulled from his description of these sort of beings of cosmic chaos that, are throughout his mythos. Specifically, the Dreams in the Witch House. So, sort of about this dude who moves into an old apartment, and a witch used to live there, and there's all this kind of really bad energy there, and there's actually sort of this portal to another dimension that the witch kind of can travel through. So she starts haunting his dreams, and he thinks it's a classic he doesn't believe that it's real, right, at first, right? It's everything's this sort of dream-like state that he's in, so he just attributes it to nightmares, and then the nightmares start to become more and more real, and he starts having marks on his body, and he realizes it's not a dream, and it's this witch is sort of communicating with him and transporting him to this sort of hellish, sort of ethereal, another dimension. So that's I just found it to be a really interesting story, and it's different because it's not your classic take on a witch. It's that sort of imagery has been used a lot, so it was a cool sort of twist on that. So I tried to be inspired by that and use that for fodder for the lyrics. The Color Out of Space, another Lovecraft story, as I was saying. This one, to me, I don't know for a fact, but this to me is sort of his take on a ghost story, but it done in a sci-fi way rather than a deceased. Someone who hasn't passed on. It's literally sort of this smoke that cracks out of this cosmic meteor and just sort of sucks the life from an entire farm town. So you can't define it. It's this sort of amorphous, gaseous cloud that just drains the life of everything in its presence. And the first riff of That Which Consumes All Things to me just sounded like an ominous black cloud. So sometimes it's nice when the music and lyrics sort of fit together.
This is the reason why this album is darker than the previous one?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I think Graves Are Sin is dark in a different way, but I mean, yeah, overall I was pulling more from the sort of sci-fi horror realm in general, sort of across the board.
Okay. For this album, you worked with a producer, the name, Shane Frisbee,
Yeah.
and Big It House.
Yep, Rick Hit-House. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we did the drums
so
there.
why this choice?
We wanted to try to do something different, and Shane's got a great studio. I mean, Zeus still recorded the rest of the record, the guitars, bass, and vocals at his studio. But it was just a nice change of pace, especially because we've done the drums with Zeus for the past couple records.
Okay. So, which band want you to make music?
What band inspired me to make music?
Yes.
Martyr maybe was a big one that really pushed me. I mean, there's so many different ones. As far as death metal goes, or just music in general?
Oh, music in general.
Oh, Aerosmith. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw Joe Perry play, and I was hooked.
Okay. And death metal?
Death metal, it was multiple tiers. So Cannibal Corpse, Martyr. They're a French Canadian band. Again, very forward-thinking. Their guitar player plays in Voivod now.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Spawn of Possession. I mean, there's so many bands. Theory and Practice. The more melodic stuff like In Flames. It's inspired by Immortal and Emperor growing up. I mean, there was just so. I mean, it's crazy to think back as a kid. I was just so. Slayer, of course. Yeah. I mean, that was more the thrash side of things.
So it's a good day for you today because there you can record. There is Emperor. There is Slayer.
I mean, I'm a 15-year-old me is shitting my pants right now.
So, could you tell me what are your next gigs?
Sure, we're doing a co-headline tour of North America, or U.S. and Canada with Voivod, Psychroptic, Skeleton Remains, Conjurer. Hopefully we'll be getting back over here to do another headliner, maybe in the spring, next coming year. But it's a little too early to say. But we got a good month of touring lined up.
And last question, more generalist. I want to know, what do you think about the evolution of the extreme metal?
I think that it's really cool. I mean, bands are constantly pushing the envelope, and you know, it's truly a genre where if you look in the right places, you can always find some really inspiring stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your answers, and have a nice day in the Hellfest.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it.